Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most objective 49ers discussion. Only smart takes, never any clickbait. And today we're going to be recapping the 49ers' impressive, at least down the stretch, 48-27 win over the Indianapolis Colts. Two more wins, the number one seed, and home throughout the playoffs. And hopefully the Super Bowl will be talking Brock's big game, the offense, the running game getting back on track, injuries, the defense, and some issues remaining. No doubt, as the Niners now will be hosting the Bears on Sunday night. I'm recording this on Tuesday night, so roughly 24 hours since the 49ers victory. Let's jump right in. And I know there's no Seahawk fans watching or listening. I mean, I highly doubt it, right? But let's start off and have some fun. Hey, Seahawk fans, scoring a touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts isn't for everybody. Hey, Seahawk fans, running for over 145 yards against the Colts isn't for everybody. Nor is holding the Colts to under 60 rushing yards. They had a good rushing day up against you in Seattle last weekend. Seahawk fans, having a quarterback throw for 5 touchdowns against the Colts isn't for everybody. And the final takeaway, obviously, beating the Indianapolis Colts convincingly is not for everybody, Seahawk fans. Now, I know Seahawk fans can come back and say the same thing about the Jaguar game or the Bucks game, or they both teams actually beat the Saints. The Niners kind of edged one out in New Orleans, whereas the Seahawks kind of won convincingly in Seattle. But I don't believe any of those comparisons, it might have been, were back-to-back weeks, but we are a 49ers podcast, seeing a lot of smack talk from Seahawk fans on Twitter, which is cute, along with their, one Super Bowl victory. Really, really cute. And borderline irrelevance for like the past 5 to 7 years. But what a difference a week makes, at least for the Colts offense, right? Did not look, Philip Rivers, touchdown and interception, didn't look great against Seattle. Seattle needed everything in their power. And by that, I mean either Sam Darnold's power or lack thereof, or just the power in Jason Myers' foot, the field goal kicker, with 6 field goals to beat the Colts 18-16 at home, vaunted Lumen Field, or whatever the hell it's called now. If it's not Lumen, I don't care. Been there to a game once, really cool environment, and Seattle's an awesome town. But when you have Philip Rivers coming to town, knowing that it's his first game in 5 years, and they're a run-heavy team with Jonathan Taylor, and you go down to the wire with them, I question your true nature as a number one seed. 12-3, that's all great. Beat the Rams on some fluky plays and a punt return touchdown by Rashid Shaheed. Helps the Niner fans, help the Niners. Thank you very much. But Niners put up points on the Colts. Seattle struggled mightily, and I don't know if that was because Sam the man they viewed that as another big game, and we know what Sam Darnold historically does in big games. But we also know what Brock does in big games outside of the Ravens game. That was a clunker, to say the least, a couple Christmas nights ago. First 2 playoff games in the 2022 season before blowing the elbow out in Philadelphia. 2 wins against Dallas, Seattle and Dallas. 2023 MVP finalist season. Come back against the Packers. It wasn't Brock Purdy who threw 2 gut-wrenching interceptions. It was Jordan Love who buried his team down 24-7 at the half against the Lions. NFC Championship game. Comes all the way back for the victory. Not to say that this Colts and, week 1 against Seattle, big game to kick off the season. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Sam Darnold, another, iffy game, iffy start. at least week one, to his Seahawks career, and then obviously bounced back some. But Brock against the Colts, huge game. And I'm not going to say you needed every single one of those touchdowns, but the way that the game started, you thought you would need as many touchdowns as you could get, and they got 5 from Brock. 25 of 34, 295 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception, which we'll talk about. Sacked only once. So before anybody says, well, Al, they're the 31st ranked pass defense in the Colts, and they didn't have Charvarius Ward, and they didn't have Sauce Gardner, which they didn't against the Seahawks last week, nor did they have DeForest Buckner last week, and Buckner played against the Niners, and the game was at so spooky Seattle, Lumen Field, whatever the fuck it's called. Again, I don't care. Home of the 12s, 2-point victory for Seattle. This was home in Indianapolis, week 2 of the Phillip Rivers experiment, if you want to call it that. Niners flying halfway across the country. Monday night, again without Ricky Pearsall, obviously without Brandon Ayuk. He's been sent home, and again, no Warner, no Bosa. Yetur Gross-Matos did come back to play, as did Sam O and Jordan Elliott and others, not superstars by any means. They're still missing 3 of the best players on their team in Ayuk, Warner, and Bosa. But the Colts defense, the run defense, has been a top 8 unit all year. Pass defense, I said the Niners are going to be able to get them via the pass. And they did. But, this isn't just like with the Titans. This is don't tell me the Colts are bad. We know they're bad, but Brock lit them the fuck up. Like it was 4th of July. Brock had the highest QBR and QB rating against the Colts all season. No other quarterback against the Colts has thrown 3 touchdowns. Brock threw 5. And, throwing touchdowns is a situational thing. They had, a throw inside whatever was the 10 that went to McCaffrey. Could have easily been a handoff. Number of touchdowns, again, is sometimes situational. But no one's come since Steve Young has thrown 6 touchdowns in the 1994/1995 Super Bowl against the Chargers. No one has come close, right? And before that, it was Montana throwing 5 against the Broncos. And a lot of those from both were kind of like bombs away-ish throws, at least the Bronco game. There's like 3 I can remember. So again, situational, that's fine. But it's an emphatic exclamation point on what the Niners offense and Brock did to a Colts defense, pass defense, and run defense. We'll get into that a lot of teams have struggled with, including the mighty Seahawks on their home field. Now, the last 3 games, let's say Brock has bounced back nicely, right? 9 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 interception. They've won now 4 straight or 5 straight, looking to go 7 straight to end the regular season. This season, for everybody hating on Brock, and there are people, or downplaying Brock's ability because of how well-ish Mac Jones played, and especially a trooper, like a real man playing through that knee injury. Brock, as a starter this season, is 4th in completion percentage, 5th in QB rating, and 1st in QBR. I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback. I'm not. I don't think there would be a point where I would ever say that. But what I'm saying is he's closer to 5 than he is 15. And not because Brock threw 5 touchdowns on Monday Night Football for the world to see. And let's kind of go back to that too. Brock throws 5 touchdowns. Where's the social media flowers and love and people dropping to their knees to suck him off, and the national, everybody, Brock Purdy, oh my God, because if Allen threw 5, if Burrow threw 5, if Lamar threw 5, hell, if Caleb Williams threw 5, Drake May, Bo Nix, Jordan Love. How many more quarterbacks? Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurd, former Niner bust receiver. The fact that Jalen Hurts threw over 3,000 yards this year, yay, Jalen Hurts, good for you. I know you won the Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP last year, but that was the first time since like the 60s or early 70s where a quarterback won the Super Bowl with throwing less than 3,000 yards in a season. And those seasons sometimes had 14 or 12 games. Again, Brock shaking off some of the... Now, Brock's going to have peaks and valleys games, right? When he's hot, he's hot. And then he does have those bonehead moments, which it's just a matter of getting it out of him. I don't know if you're ever going to get out of him altogether. I've said before, gunslinger mentality without the gunslinger arm. You saw him, I believe, twice in the Colts game throw against his body to the middle of the field. Once definitely was to Kittle in the end zone. He got away with that. Brock's going to force the ball. He's not captain check down. And I do maintain he's closer to 5 than he is to 15. Now, the quarterbacks, I think we could all universally agree that we would take over Brock, that are better than Brock. It's Mahomes, it's Allen, it's Burrow, it's Lamar, it's Stafford, and it's Herbert. That's 6 right there, right? But then I would say he's in the same grouping, the next tier, as Dak, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, and I'll throw Jalen Hurts in there. Jalen Hurts has been a solid to very good NFL quarterback in his career. He is but I will maintain, and I think it's fair, he is a better fantasy quarterback than actual real life quarterback. Jalen Hurts is not an uber dynamic quarterback. He can move, right? He is not a force multiplier. It's the line, it's the skill positions, it's the defense that props Jalen Hurts up some. Now, he did have 2 great Super Bowls against the Chiefs and Mahomes. Won one, lost one. But I think Brock is in that next tier 2 group. So you have 6 in tier 1, 5 in tier 2. So that's 11 quarterbacks. And however you want to order Dak, Goff, Baker, Hurts, and Brock, knock yourself out. Then I think the group underneath that, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, and Trevor Lawrence. So 3 more quarterbacks. So now we're at 14. And then the need to see more group, because it's early, and I'm not, no one wanted to proclaim anything about Brock after year 2. Year 1 was 13 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, I believe, coming in during the Miami game, and then wins 2 playoff games, NFC Championship game hurt. Year 2 is going all the way to the Super Bowl, left the Super Bowl in the 4th quarter in overtime with the lead, couldn't hold it, MVP finalist, and people still wanted to see more from Brock. If that's the case, I want to see more from Drake May, built upon a decent rookie season. I want to see more from Jaden Daniels. If he's going to be injury prone like RG3, then that's going to be part of his story and why he's going to be knocked down pegs in the QB rankings. I want to see more from Bo Nix, regressed year 2. And I want to see more from Caleb Williams, built upon year 1, has a great offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, built the line around him, gave him some skill positions, which is awesome. But I'm not quick to crown anybody after 2 years. Even Brock, I wasn't in as much of a wait and see mode as other people because of the progression from year 1 to year 2. I guess the only one, these quarterbacks, it's May has progressed. You could say that's just as much May as it is Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. And Caleb, is it just as much Caleb as it is Ben Johnson and the line and the weapons that he has around him? It's not all Caleb. It's not all anybody. This is a team effort here. But maybe this 5 touchdown performance, which no one's talking about, but everybody will be talking about if it was any other quarterback, maybe opens some eyes, and Brock and Caleb are going head to head next Sunday night. Listen, guys, overall the game, let's get back to it. Didn't start great. Indianapolis went right down the field, touchdowns first 2 drives. Everything kind of settled in after that, and the Niners offense was more or less unstoppable. If you watched the game, you heard that they haven't punted since November, and yesterday was December 22nd. So you're talking they haven't punted in 4 games. Is that going to continue? I hope so, but probably not. Running game got going. Demarcus Robinson, touchdown on a couple receptions. Kittle, a big game. McCaffrey, 6 receptions. Borden with a couple receptions. There was much more to like than not like. And I'm not going to know if this is going out on a limb because I'm sure people are thinking the same way when this happened and even after the fact. I think the only thing that, at least we'll say Shanahan as a head coach and offensive play caller did wrong was call the pass that ended up as an interception. Even if it was a completion or an incompletion, the minute Brock went play action, watching it with my son, immediately said to the TV, should not be throwing here. Before the ball left his hand. Let's go situationally again. Niners are up 41-27 at that time. It's 2nd and 11 at the Indianapolis 34-yard line. Colts use their first time out. 2 left. You're up that much. If you want to call it safe, I'll call it smart, is to hand off 2 more times, have Indianapolis use their last 2 timeouts, and then have Pinheiro come out for a field goal, or you can pooch kick it inside the 20. And I think there was about, if I didn't say it already, I apologize, like about 4:30 left on the clock. Best case scenario, you kick a field goal to go up 17 with maybe they get the ball back after a kick return with like 4:20 to go. Worst case scenario, you pooch it inside the 20-yard line, make them have to go the length of the field and score twice with no timeouts other than a 2-minute warning. Throwing it there did not make sense. Even if it's an incompletion, now you're stopping the clock. Now it's 3rd and 11. And now it's probably a passing down, although I would have said run it anyway. That's the only thing Shanahan did wrong. And I say to my son a lot in basketball and sports that he plays and in watching sports, there's the fine line between aggressive and reckless. That felt more reckless given the situation, where they were on the field, how much time was remaining, how many timeouts the Colts had left on the clock. You're in firm control. The only way the Colts get back into it is a turnover. And you gave that to him, and thankfully the defense stepped up. We'll get into the defense in a second. The running game, it looked like the Niners running game that we're accustomed to. I am not about to say it's back on track after 1 game, nor am I going to crown Brock Purdy a top 5 quarterback or top 7 quarterback because he threw for 5 touchdowns on national television. Perspective, and I don't live in a knee-jerk reaction world. 31 for 145 is Niner football, or Niner football. I'm going to say at their best, because like at their best, they could be 35 for in the 180s, 190s type of thing. McCaffrey went 21 for 117, over 5 yards a carry, about 5.5 a carry. And Brock had a couple break the pocket runs. Brian Robinson with about 6 or 7 carries. This looked like the 49ers offense. Actually, Brock's runs, I think, were just QB sneaks. I don't know if he actually ran. Maybe 1 run, 1 QB sneak. For a Colts defense who was allowing under 100 yards per game, top 6 in the NFL, getting DeForest Buckner back, it's not Brock. I'm going to take the bigger takeaway for me, or the bigger thing I feel good about, is the Niners being able to run the ball basically all game. It's not like they just got a chunk of yards in a certain quarter and then the running game was dormant thereafter. They ran the ball all game long. Not sure if this is going to continue against the Bears or the Seahawks, but that was fantastic and obviously complemented in a really great way by Brock's performance in the passing game, nearly 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Hopefully, they dodged a bullet with the injury situation. It was just Kittle. Mid to low ankle sprain came out in, was it the third quarter, early fourth quarter? And it was Jake Tonjes who had a couple nice receptions. I'm going to hope that he's okay for the Bear game, because I just keep saying, especially with Pearsall, and we're going to hear it all week. You're going to hear it all week from Shanahan. Pearsall's got a chance. He's got a chance. We're good. He might not practice, but he's got a chance to play. If he doesn't practice, he's not playing. He's not. PCL reaggravation, ankle, whatever grade or severity the ankle injury was. I think we should all be pleasantly surprised if Pearsall plays. I'm going to reserve judgment. I haven't heard anything from Shanahan yet. There might be something out there interview-wise. I just didn't hear it. Bears game to me is Seahawk game is best case scenario. But at least Kittle, they need him. Again, the offense needs to go through Kittle and McCaffrey. Without a bona fide number one receiver, it needs to go through Kittle in the passing game. And obviously McCaffrey, if you want to say everywhere else, run and pass. Now, I'm not burying the lead. I know a lot of people are talking about the defense. And I said we're going to be talking about some issues. Defense didn't look great. Let's start with Rivers in his second start, 23 of 35, 277 for 2 touchdowns and interception. The Niners got to him twice, both by rookie D lineman CJ West and Alfred Collins, which was great to see the youngsters get there. But I think the Niners, the overall defensive numbers and the overall defensive performance, to me, I think is getting a little bit overblown, and we are honing in on maybe how bad it looked in the first quarter and not how it evolved and got better the rest of the game. What do I mean by that? I mean, the first 2 drives by the Colts ended up in touchdowns, right? Got up 7-0. Niners got up 14-7. Did they make it then 14-14? I forgot the sequence of scoring. But the Colts' first 2 drives obviously ended in touchdowns, 138 yards of offense. You saw this, the stat. Philip Rivers had 120 yards passing against the Seahawks last week, 121 against the Niners in the first quarter on Monday night. So the first 2 drives netted them 138 yards. The next 7 drives, 186 yards and 13 points. Robert Saleh has come out and said, the yards sometimes looks bad and that's fine, but we're about holding teams down offensively from a point scoring standpoint. Now, they scored 27, so you can't, Robert Saleh didn't correctly check both boxes. Check, let up yards. No check, they did not hold them to field goals when they could have. Right? Because you're talking 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals to get to 27. But when your first 2 drives are averaging 69 yards and your next 7 drives are not even averaging 30 yards, the defense is doing something better and right. Maybe speculation here, right? Maybe Saleh wasn't prepared for how much the Colts were going to come out throwing. Knowing it's Rivers' second game and knowing you have Jonathan Taylor, a beat-up offensive line, right? Missing both of their starting tackles was Indianapolis, and their center got hurt in the first half. Still could not generate much pressure on Rivers. 2 sacks is better than 1 or none. I get it. But Philip Rivers wasn't necessarily harassed. Some of it to do with Rivers getting it out of his hands early. I said that was going to happen. That's always been his game. And some of it that the Niners starters, we're going to use air quotes on the D line, is not really better than the Colts backups on their offensive line. And that's going to be their Achilles heel come playoff time, since obviously now they're in with the Lions loss and we know they're playing for the number 1 seed. If they lose there, whether it's the 6 or the 7, a good quarterback will, with weapons, will carve up the defense. It is just a matter of the second thing Robert Saleh said of converting 7s to 3s, limiting touchdowns, turning into field goals, being opportunistic when you can, whether it's a sack, a fumble, an interception, getting off the field on third down, forcing a punt, whatever it might be. But they are going to be facing, and it's not like the Colts don't have weapons. Alec Pierce had a couple touchdowns. Michael Pittman's a very good receiver. Tyler Warren's a very good tight end. Maybe let's not go nuts. Won't say very good. And Jonathan Taylor's a top 3 back in the NFL. I know they were beat up a little bit on the offensive line, but the Niners are beat up quite a bit on the defensive line. So that was almost a push. Phillip Rivers is still a pretty decent trigger man. We show that, you saw that he didn't have the arm on a couple throws, throwing behind some players, or just didn't have quite enough on it. Those are throws that a Stafford will connect on, right? That essentially any other quarterback in the league could probably connect on. But who knows what the game plan would have been against any other quarterback in the league, any other skill position players, any other offense that wasn't Indianapolis. The defense got better as the game went on. Pretty balanced. It was they allowed 17 points in the first half, 10 points in the second half. Points and yardage for sure. Well, the yardage might have been more in the second half than the first half. But again, we're looking at the first 2 drives, 138 yards, and the next 7 or the last 7 drives, 186 yards. That is improvement, guys. What I said last podcast with Darrell Green, Renardo Green not starting, and Darrell Luter, that if he's matched up on Alec Pierce, forget Michael Pittman, you can't say Pittman, but Pierce is the long strider, the faster of the 2 receivers, he was going to have a rough game. Now Alec Pierce's first touchdown was on Jair Brown. Ran a post, good throw by Rivers out in front of Pierce, beyond the outstretched arm of Jair Brown for a touchdown. Pierce did have one on Luter. The pass interference on Luter, I don't necessarily think was an egregious PI. Was there contact? Was there some grabbiness coming out of the break on that out? Sure. I've seen worse not called. But he had difficulty in coverage. And Darrell Luter's a backup. Good size, 6'1", built like Charvarius Ward, is not Charvarius Ward. Renardo Green might have gotten cooked too last night. You never know. But in the offseason, the Niners, I think, need to look at, and Darrell Luter is under contract for next year, but to bring in, whether it's a draft pick or somebody, another dependable corner should Demo Renardo Green, or more dynamic corner. Green's a good tackler. He's willing. I'm just not sure if he has the fluidity that, can flip his hips quick enough, or the foot speed to stay with a lot of receivers. That's one of the reasons why Eli Apple was elevated from the practice squad and Chase Lucas was a healthy scratch, because they needed someone else on the outside with Renardo Green down. If something happened to Luter or Demo, at least Eli Apple has starting experience, and I'd rather have Eli Apple on the outside than Chase Lucas. Chase Lucas is great in the slot. I don't want him on the outside. So after that interception, that pass by a Shanahan call that never should have been, D. Winters steps up 14, long interception return for a touchdown, steps in front of Tyler Warren, takes it to the house for the 48-27 final. So again, that evolution of the defense, I think there was a sack in the first half, sack in the second half, interception, pick 6 return in the second half to close the game. I don't think any one of us thought D. Winters was going to be a closer. Granted, you're up by 14, so the deck was really stacked against Indianapolis coming back anyway, but he found himself in the closer role with the pick 6 to get the victory. All that being said, guys, and I said it the past couple of podcasts, this is the Niners defense. You're going to get some wow performances like they did against Atlanta on Monday night, several weeks ago, where they completely shut down that offense and the running game. You're going to get another performance tonight, like they were last night, where they shut the Colts running game down, but gave up a bunch through the air. You're going to have a performance like at home in Santa Clara against the Rams, where they just got torched, and you're going to have stuff in between. The Colts had 312 yards of offense. That's actually under the average of what the Niners give up per game this year, which is 332. Minus, when you take the sacks into consideration, the Colts had 254 passing yards. Niners are averaging 229, so over their average, obviously. Colts only ran at 58 yards, Jonathan Taylor and Amir Abdullah. Niners are averaging giving up 104 on the ground. And the Colts scored 27. Niners are averaging allowing 21. In the ballpark in some areas, higher with passing, lower with rushing. It was a game where Saleh made whatever adjustments, or the players just started believing more, started playing faster, started recognizing what Indianapolis was doing, and the offense just kept scoring to keep the pressure on the Colts offense, and gave the defense, however much this mattered, and I think it did, time to rest. Right? The Colts had two relatively long drives, but the Niners kept their offense on the field, giving a defense that is very young and inexperienced in a lot of ways more time to regroup. The one thing that I think maybe a lot of us are hoping, and I'll just say it out loud, we're at game 15, and I know there's still a lot of young players, and Saleh has done a very nice job. I would have thought that this last quarter of the season, and who knows how they're going to look against Chicago and Seattle. If they look great defensively, then we have our answer. But maybe the last 4 to 6 games of the season, that all of the learning that happened in the first 10 weeks, 9 or 10 weeks, would translate into showing the progress in a more dominant unit overall. And again, they've had their hits and misses, good games, bad games, and games in between. But like the Eagles defense last year, they were playing, a decent amount of young players, especially in the secondary. You saw that defense round into form, end of the season, playoffs, and obviously what they did against Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Not like I was hoping for that. Robert Saleh, for as good as he is no Vic Fangio. Let's not get the two confused. And that's okay. Everywhere in life, there's going to be someone smarter, better looking, faster, taller, more athletic, whatever. Saleh's a very good defensive coordinator with what he's doing, and especially the enthusiasm that those young players are seeing coming off the field is an excited head coach when they're doing something good. That builds confidence. They feed off of that. But I do wonder if even privately, Saleh and Shanahan and others maybe we're hoping for a little bit more accelerated growth from the young players once you maybe got into mid to end of November, just as an observation. Now, next week, hopefully Renardo Green is back. He had a neck injury. And Eric Kendricks, linebacker on the practice squad, got elevated. Nick Martin on IR, right? So will he see more playing time? There's 2 more elevations that Kendricks has. Tatum Bethune went out. I don't actually recall if he came back in. He might have. I don't recall. But Kendricks got some playing time. He is your veteran insurance for Tatum Bethune. Curtis Robinson was a healthy scratch. So not that elevation was important for Kendricks, because they could have not made Robinson a healthy scratch and went somewhere else. But veteran insurance as we conclude the regular season in the next 2 weeks and head into the playoffs. Any game takeaways? This is a game that I had the Niners winning 24-20. They obviously exceeded that offensively, and they let up more points than they thought they would. And the first quarter looked much easier for Indianapolis than any of us thought it would. But again, when you separate those first 2 offensive drives for the Colts compared to the next 7, a stark difference. But it only mattered And George Kittle's been aware of this for about a month, and I've been saying it for thereabouts, if not longer. They are going to need to outscore teams. And they ran into a team that just didn't have enough offensively, mainly because the quarterback, and as great as Philip Rivers has been in his career, it's his second game back. There are teams in the NFC playoffs, quarterbacks, offensive lines that'll just stonewall the lack of a pass rush that the Niners have. And defenses that can slow the Niners offense down. The Niners offense is clicking, right? And you want to hopefully that this momentum carries into the playoffs. And the biggest thing right now is Kittle, that hopefully he can be healthy enough to play against Chicago and healthy enough for Seattle, and then the run, hopefully after that. But there are going to be defenses that can slow San Francisco's offense down. And I know in other podcasts, I've talked about gaps and differences and deltas between two things. As we move to the last 2 weeks of the season, Bears, Seahawks, and then beyond, whoever the Niners are playing, where is the bigger difference between the opposing team's offense and the Niners defense, or between the Niners offense and the opposing team's defense? Chicago's an interesting case study, right? They're an opportunistic defense. We're going to break this down on Friday. Opportunistic. They're getting decent play out of Caleb Williams. They've gotten lucky in some games recently, especially last week again, or this past Saturday or whenever it was against the Packers. And kudos to them for coming back. 11-4, just like San Francisco. And just like San Francisco, probably a lot of people are thinking they might not be as good as their record says they are. Well, whichever team wins on Sunday night maybe has a little bit more to say about that, of kind of validating the record. And then was it per Bill Parcells or whoever said it, your record says who you are. And whoever walks out of Santa Clara Levi Stadium next week is a 12-3 team, or a 12-4 team is a legit 12-4 team. So that's going to conclude the podcast for today. Like always, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your viewing or listening routine. Between now and then will be Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone. Our podcast will more than likely be on the 26th. So whatever you are doing, I hope you enjoy it with family and friends. If you are into Stranger Things, I hope you enjoy the next handful of episodes releasing on Christmas, 8 p.m. Eastern. Maybe a little Stranger Things discussion on Friday. That's only if I can actually get through the next handful of episodes before the finale on New Year's Eve. So a lot going on, obviously the holidays, and obviously a lot of meaningful football as well. We're not going to get in terms of maybe some college bowl games. We are not going to get to the Niners until Sunday night, but we will talk about the Niners and Bears on Friday night, day after Christmas. Guys, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you are doing. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. We will talk soon. Take care.